background, are you?
No, I don't know.
Great.
Okay, it's just setting it up now. So, oh, there we go. And I just need to turn on the chat. Can you see the chat or can only I see the chat?
I don't see it right now, so it must be
Okay.
you.
Okay. If not, I can just read them as they come in. So I know there's a bit of a lag too, but
Is there? Yeah, that's great.
well, welcome everybody. This is our live we're doing with Lauren Schneider, and we're going to be talking about dreams and oracle images in this unsettling time. And so we hope that you'll join us or be able to watch our replay afterwards to, learn some things about dreams and things like that. So welcome, Lauren. We're excited to have you back on with us with this live, and hopefully people will tune in and have some interesting questions for us. And
Thank you. It's always lovely to be with you both, and I hope people will call in with questions or dreams or perhaps images that they've pulled. I think it's incredibly helpful to um, consult these divination tools, dreams, tarot, I Ching, because they give us a deeper soul's perspective, and they ground us in a deeper aspect of our being in the midst of upheaval in our life, which I think there's been a lot of.
There definitely has been a lot of, and dreams tell us so much, in everyday living. They tell us what we should be looking for, something would happen yesterday that to do with our life today. And so having you on with us is really going to help people to understand more about dreams and what they can do, how they can decipher them to make it best for them for a day-to-day thing, you know.
I also noticed that in the midst of crises, I think it's very common to have anxiety dreams, or if we're pulling images, as I do with therapy, that we may get some difficult images. We might have anxiety dreams, but always I find that within that dream or within that layout, there is medicine. There is a positive perspective. And that's what I'm always looking for, is the medicine of the dream, the medicine of the therapy layout. And particularly in these anxiety provoking times, with the fires in Los Angeles, or I think people are feeling a lot of shifts in our world and in our country, and it's unnerving. And so these tools can really help to guide us.
yeah, it does seem like there's a lot of um, tumultuous stuff kind of happening now, like both politically and with these fires. And there's just a lot of unsettling things in the world and in our countries right now. So, do you want to speak a little bit about maybe, uh, how do we can deal with this when we're having these dreams, or how we can maybe shift our dreams to find some answers through this unsettling time?
Oh, that's a great question, too. Well, the first thing I would say is capture dreams. So we put a pad of paper and pen by our bed, or our phone. And when we wake up, try not to stir the first 5 minutes and just see anything that you recall, a feeling, an image. Stay with it. As you reflect on it, what will happen is it'll usually pull the dream back, and then write it down. And if you do that every morning, you'll be capturing dreams. So that's one thing. The other thing is you can get decks of symbolic imagery, oracle decks, tarot decks. And I run groups where people will pick from 4 or 5 decks, and they'll just put, 4 or 5 cards out. And what's amazing is you see a very comprehensive narrative going on, and you will see the political situation coming into the dream, or you will see the issues of fires coming into the layouts. One person did a layout where she had this goddess-like figure holding flames, and the next image was a woman holding smoke, and the next image was a woman upside down in a burned out field. So all three of her images were holding aspects of fire. And it's like, you can't make this up. Well, we'll get into consciousness and matter, but so that's the first thing, is learn to capture a dream, learn to pull images. You can throw the I Ching. We can talk about that after. And then the first thing I do is look for the medicine. So where is the positive image? Where is the hope? Where is there a spark of light in all of this? And I always see it. For example, when the pandemic hit, anxiety dreams were rampant, and dream experts that I know were collecting anxiety dreams. But I think sometimes they overlook that within these anxiety dreams, there would be a jewel. And for example, somebody shared a dream with me early on in the pandemic where she went into a public bathroom and everything was dirty and everything was covered with carpet. And she didn't want to touch anything. But she looked under the sink, and under the sink, amidst all of this crap everywhere, there were caterpillars and butterflies emerging.
Beautiful.
And so she could tune in, she could focus on that image of transformation and realize that even in the midst of something so scary where she felt like she couldn't be safe to touch anything, there's transformation. I can show you a case in dealing with the Lahaina fires that came up in Tarotpy. Okay, let me see if I can share my screen.
And we do have a couple of people watching, so if anybody has any questions, please just put them in the live chat, and then we'll get to them as we go on.
So I was asked if I could do a session with somebody who had PTSD when the Lahaina fires happened. She lived in Haiku. She was not directly affected, but of course, this was her community. And I'm sure people in Los Angeles are feeling that, even if they weren't directly affected by the Eaton fires or the Palisades fires, they could feel the grief of what was happening to their community. So she was feeling that, grief for her community and shock. But she had also, as a child, been in the Napa fires, and she barely escaped her childhood home when it was consumed by fire. So she had PTSD on top of the shock and grief for this community. And so I reached out to her, and she picked the mushroom deck. Now, I didn't know this existed. She's a plant healer, and so she picked this mushroom deck, and she randomly shuffled and laid out these 4 cards. Now, knowing that she was feeling traumatized, I started by focusing her attention on the outer cards because they were so light and sunny. So the card on the left, now I don't ordinarily read the books that accompany the tarot deck or oracle deck because the definitions are too limited. They're not personal. And if we can relate to the images in a personal way, then we'll see how psyche, how our deeper wisdom is speaking to us through the images. So, but with these, I didn't know what the property of the mushrooms were. I didn't know what they meant. So I asked her to just tell me what the meaning of certain mushrooms are. And the one on the left is lion's mane. And the property of it is to regenerate cells and for longevity. The image looked like it was happening in an environment like Hawaii. And so what she felt when she looked at it is, oh, the land can regenerate. And when we see mushrooms in a landscape that has been burned, we know that the land is regenerating. So she could feel that hope. And Then she looked at the card on the right. Excuse me. These were shiitake mushrooms, but the amazing thing is she really looked at the card is that the environment looked like Napa Valley with its classic wine bottle and wine glasses. And I pointed out that there's a caduceus on the wine bottle, which is our medical symbol for healing. And so she immediately connected to how she had healed her relationship with Napa since being a child. That when she first went back, she would feel fear, but over time, she had a positive relationship with Napa again. So again, that anchored her to the land can heal and she can heal, that we're resilient.
Wow.
And then she went into the images in the middle, and just to quickly say, the pink mushrooms are chanterelle, and they are an endangered species, and she felt like leaving the island because it felt endangered. But the card on the right of that, the judgment card, which is a card of rebirth and renewal, this is like, these look like blackened like ash mushrooms, trumpet mushrooms. And what she felt is that she needed to stay for her community, that it could find renewal and regeneration. And so she was able to hold those two feelings, the feeling of wanting to flee and the feeling of wanting to stay. And that allowed her to ground herself with these outside images of firming regeneration and resilience.
Yeah, I always find it interesting with mushrooms. Like, I know when there's a lot of fires and things like that, it also brings out these chaga mushrooms. And so they're widely sought after. And it's really interesting to me, like with that lion's mane and how it's growing out of the tree like that with the, the strength and the regeneration. I find that's very interesting. So I think it's interesting how her cards laid out there because yeah, you can truly see, like you said, with the Napa Valley and kind of the beginning to the end and from the past to the future of how she's healing through these things. So that's pretty interesting. Those were the cards she chose.
Yeah, that was interesting too, that these were the cards, the deck that she chose, because at some level, whether it was conscious or not, she knows that mushrooms are a symbol of regeneration. So yeah, it was fascinating. But you can't make things like this up, that Napa Valley showed up.
That's
That's
exactly.
true.
She was
So true.
So let me get out of this share. That's just an example. I could give a political example too. In 2016, when Donald Trump won the election, I threw the I Ching the next day, and I don't think I was asking anything political. I was asking about myself, but I used several books, and one of the books said, "There is nobility to a failed leadership. He is only there to accelerate the transition from the old to the new."
That's interesting.
And we know we're in a big transition, but to realize that this is part of a larger perspective of part he's playing in our country going through a very profound transition.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, I found it interesting. Like, I don't follow the news a lot, to be honest, but I did find it interesting because in one of the clips I seen today was, they were talking about tariffs and things like that. And then so yesterday or whenever it was, he's putting all these tariffs on Canada and Mexico and stuff. And then the highlight that I seen today was, well, no, not yet on Mexico. So it was interesting to me because I just find it so wishy-washy, I guess would be the best word. Like I say, I don't watch a lot of news, but I just find some of that interesting of how I believe you're exactly right when you say this is just a transformation into moving us forward. So, I mean, we're in Canada ourselves, but still we have that upheaval in our own government as well. And so it's just an interesting time. And I think with this year being the year of the nine, about transformation and things like that, it's really interesting to see how this is all playing out with it.
Absolutely. And yes, I just thank you for reminding me you're from Canada. I hear it. And, you know, we're in a time with a lot of things being thrown at us very quickly. I think that's part of the point, is to distract people with shock. And there's a lot of shocking statements that happen and then pulls back. And that's shocking, to have this kind of wishy-washy policies, but policies that are quite important and powerful, can change our geopolitical relationships. So when he threatens to make Canada, you know, a state of the US, I'm sure that gets very shocking for people. And what the I Ching reminds us about shock is, in the midst of shock, when we feel the ground shaking underneath our feet, our job is not to hold the sacred, to not to drop the sacred ladle that we've been given, to imagine, like a priest in a temple, that they do not drop the sacred. And so for us, in the midst of shock, it's to focus on what is it that we hold sacred, and how can we just hold our values and stay focused on them, and focused on what we're here to do, and keep ourselves grounded in that way, so that we're not constantly reacting to the shock.
Yes.
That's exactly right. And I see we have some people on. So if anybody has any questions, or there's something that you want to share as far as dreams that you're looking for some, you know, guidance towards, I guess would be the best thing. We're happy to take those. Or if you have an image you want to share, we're happy to take those as well. So just let you know, we're here to listen. Nothing yet.
Excuse me.
But yes, I always find it interesting, because I like you, I dream journal. And so I always find it interesting. And one of the things that's been coming up a lot more in my dreams lately is a lot of numbers, like times, numbers. Yeah, like the other night I had a dream, and I was somewhere in a store with my son, my youngest son, and he wanted these chocolates, and they were in these electric frying pans for whatever reason, but they were on sale for $7.99. And I said, well, okay, well, we'll get both of them, because there's only two left, so we might as well take those with us. So, because he wanted, and then I said, well, you and your girlfriend can have one of the electric frying pans, and the other I'll gift to somebody else. And then later in my dream, it flipped to something else. And then I was trying to make an appointment for something, and the appointment was for 4 p.m. So I thought it was really interesting how it's seemingly in my dreams these days, all these numbers are coming to me, and all the, like, in different ways. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I feel like I need to pay attention to those. So what would you think about something like that?
Well, I have some questions first, because I always want to know your own associations with some of these images. One question is, how old is your son?
He is 29.
I sort of thought you might say that. There might be a 9 in there. So, okay, so that's a number 2. Anything about chocolates?
Well, he used to steal his brother's chocolates out of his advent calendar, but apart from that, I would just assume that he likes chocolates.
But I'm also hearing chocolates connected to the advent calendar, which for me might suggest that chocolates hold some sort of a spiritual connection. They definitely are divine when we eat them, you know, but there may be, just in terms of the specialness, sacredness of the chocolate itself, it's rather Dionysian to find joy in tastes, but it's also connected to the Advent calendar. So perhaps there's something there. And so maybe there's something about the spiritual nature of the chocolates and connected to the 799, something spiritual about those numbers. Now, you brought in that 9 is a number of transformation.
Yeah.
Oh, do you have any other associations with the number 9?
Not that I can really think of offhand, but I just this year it seems like that number just seems to be tossed around a lot. So I think that's where that number came in for me. So yeah, apart from that, I mean, my mom and my other son were both born in September, so there also is a 9, but yeah.
And you're born in
So
69.
And I was born in 69.
there's a couple things I'm thinking about because dreams are very layered, right? They have many layers of meaning. And so one of the things I'm struck by is this idea of going someplace to make a choice and finding what you need that is easy to get, it's easy to afford, and it's transformational. And it would make me also wonder if your son is in a transformation in his life. 29 is a very important transforming time, right? Age before 30.
Yeah.
Sevens and nines. I don't know if you noticed this, but many of us have these profound shifts in our life, transformations in our life around 7 years or 9 years. Some of us are in a 7-year cycle, some of us are in a 9-year cycle. I'm in a 9-year cycle. So that's another thing about those numbers. And you might think about that for your life, what's being signaled as a transformation. You might think of it collectively because you're in a, did you say Target?
Yeah, some shopping store. I don't even know what it was. Like it wasn't,
Okay, well,
but yeah, we were
Target's
walking around. But it was
interesting.
funny because it felt like we were the only two in the store. But you know how dreams are. It's like, okay, well, whatever.
Well, that's a collective store that we all know in the US, right? So there is something collective here that you're picking up about transformation. Um, Also, Target's an interesting metaphor. What are we targeting here?
Mhm.
And 7 is also a very profound spiritual number because it's the combination of 4, and you said 4 came up later, 4 o'clock. 4 is the archetypal number of wholeness. It is a perfectly balanced number. It is what Jung used to talk about as the archetype of wholeness in the human experience. 3 is the archetype of wholeness in the spiritual experience, in the soul's experience, like the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. So 3 and 7 is a very powerful spiritual number of complete integration of spiritual and human experience. See how rich that dream is.
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy because I had probably had like this was just I think last night, not last night, the night before, and it was like 4 different dreams that were just segregated into their own dreams in one night, but at the same time, kind of there was stuff from each dream that sort of went together. So it was really interesting. And, I do keep a pen by my bed and some paper. And, sometimes I'm like, what does that say? Because you're half asleep, right?
Yeah, I'm wondering because I don't normally tell somebody what their dream means. These are just ideas to see what resonates with you and how does that feel to think about the dream this way.
Yeah, I think when you say that, that really is, I'm sort of at a crest in my life right now where I am sort of doing a spiritual transformation and I am moving myself. So it's very interesting for me that you picked up on that as part of like what you mentioned because yeah, that seems to be something that I'm really dealing with right now and really reaching out to my children as well to bring them kind of back into the fold, right? Because I have the connection sort of with most of my stepchildren, but my own kids are so very independent and off doing their own things. Not the stepkids aren't, but I don't hear from them as much. But so I've been trying to reconnect with them. So it's very interesting that, you picked up on that as part of the dream, because that is something that is happening. So yeah, maybe that's all. It does resonate for me. So is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. And I really would think about the chocolate as something that's a sweetness that's being discovered, that's available, that's easy to afford. I'm really curious about the electric pans. Do you
Yeah.
have
The only thing
any?
I can think is we recently bought a new electric frying pan. So like it was such a weird mix, right? Between why would chocolates be in an electric frying pan? I don't know. Who knows sometimes I always wonder, right? Because I watch these different shows and then I always wait for my dreams to kind of reflect something that I've watched on there that, last night I was watching a meditation and it was all about fractal images and then these binaural beats. And so you're kind of zoned into these um, fractal images to get to your higher self, so to speak. And it was really interesting because I thought, wonder if I'll dream about that tonight, but I didn't.
Well, you just bought electric frying pan, so there it is in the dream. Because we do dream about what we actually do in our waking life. And something's cooking, right? It's connecting you to, again, there's an interesting thing about two. There's two chocolate packets, there's two frying pans. Two, for me, again, often represents unity, connection, joining. It also highlights something, right? If there's two in a dream, it's highlighting it. So there's something important about this electric fan. And it makes me think that you're plugging yourself into something that's really cooking. Like, it's not a kitchen dream. Kitchens are very alchemical, but it's a dream that does bring up that you are in the process of cooking something,
Yeah,
something sweet.
that makes a lot of sense for me. So
It's wishful thinking for me too, because his girlfriend this year turns 27. And the 4, I'm hoping, means that in April, she'll find out she's pregnant. That was my thought.
It's a wish.
I was running through it. And the frying pan would be heating it up, sort of thing, with the chocolate of the sweetness of a child. I mean, that's fingers crossed, but I mean, that's what came to my mind.
I think that's a very possible intuitive hit.
Thanks.
Images of cooking really, and something sweet in the middle of it really could be an image of a birth, or a new seed.
Yes. Yeah. It
Fingers
was just
crossed.
yeah, it was just very interesting. And I think it's always interesting, rather you're dreaming or like if mom and I pull cards to do something and just how the story weaves together so much for people. And I find it so interesting how even when we're picking cards for sort of the collective, how much they resonate with different people. And I think we take what we need to from messages that we get for sure. But I think there's something higher that is really pushing that out to people as well.
You bet. You bet it is. My dreams lately have all been dreams I've dreamt a long time ago. They've been coming back, like dreams I've had like 10 years ago that I remembered again. Oh wow, I remember doing that like way long ago. Some of them are like 20 years ago and they're coming back again. And it's like I'm dreaming and I'm thinking, wow, am I supposed to be reconnecting with something back then that's to do with today? Have I changed from what I was when I was dreaming it then? And that's why it's changing me or showing me the changes I'm going along. But it's so weird because it's like, oh yeah, I remember I dreamt that, like, I don't know how long ago, but it was a long time ago, you know, and here it is back again in my lap, resurfacing. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I want to pick up on what you're saying, because again, I always go to the dreamer. I think we always know best what's happening for us. So you just said a number of things, which is I'm noticing how I've changed since those dreams.
Right,
So maybe it's coming back to let me know how I've transformed. Is it something from back then that is relevant now? Is there something that I need to go back and retrieve from those dreams? So these are three things you've said that I think are very important. And now it might be important to hear the dream and see what is it that you're bringing forward. Also, what came up for me as you were describing it is I believe that our dreams contain kind of the blueprint of who we are and who we're meant to be. And that the whole of who we are is contained in the seed of a dream that may have happened 20 years ago. And if I track my dreams, I can see how my dreams have been describing my unique path in life or who I am. And I discovered from a dream when I was 25 that there was a consciousness who knew who I was way beyond my waking consciousness of who I thought I was. So that's something that occurs to me. What about these dreams have been sort of laying the path of your life? And how might it be important to look at that path now, the arc of your life? Almost like a life review.
yes.
But knowing that there's something guiding and has been guiding you all this time.
I think with the one dream in particular, I was always afraid of garages. They were always dark and dismal to me and that kind of thing. And as I'm dreaming this dream now, the garage is lighting up. I see the same dream as it was when I was young, but then the garage is lightening up, so it's getting brighter. So I was thinking through that was I don't have the same fear of that kind of thing anymore. I've passed beyond that and moving into a brighter space, is what I sort of took from it. Because it was a really dark space when I was younger when I dreamt it. You know, a very fearful place. And it doesn't fearful now.
So knowing that you have healed something that was a childhood fear or a
Right?
younger fear, and knowing that you've healed it, that sounds really powerful.
It does. It
Um,
does.
do, do you have any associations with a garage or that kind of a space being scary?
Uh, yeah, a lot of it was a lot of personal sort of, what can I say? I was abused when I was a kid. Not, and I don't know. I heard in the garage. I don't know. I heard that. Um, so I think that's where the fear came from, right? But it shows that I've really passed through that in the generations. The fear doesn't generate that way anymore. It's a brighter looking picture. And that's actually the garage is empty too. Like there's nothing in there to make it look bad or dangerous or anything like that. It's completely empty. So it's like my visions of the door coming open now and me walking out of the garage versus before being put in the garage, sort of like in the dark. Right. So
So,
yeah, it's kind of been interesting.
yeah, how is that important to you right now to know that you've healed from childhood trauma and
I,
that
it's
you're
wonderful
walking
because
out of it?
yeah, it shows me that I've been thinking too, is it's moving into such bigger levels of expansion for me because I don't have to be fearful of all the things that were generated with that at that time, right? So, and there is a lot that you leave behind in situations as that. And so I think, now it's saying like, I'm ready to move on to and leave anything that's was the garbage back there anything that's the newness, like walking out of the garage into the light, shows me that I'm accepting where I pass. I'm maybe giving up and being free, and also forgiving stuff that's happened back there. So I'm thinking,
That's what
Wow,
it
I mean,
sounds
I
like
feel
to
like
me.
just taking a deep breath with how profound that is.
yes, hey, thank you.
And it's like living, I think our lives are about evolving and healing
Mhm.
and coming into enlightenment. I
Yes,
mean, what an incredible purpose for a life. And that's what you're describing.
Yeah. And I feel like it feels to me like it's when you're letting go of these things, it's like all these things that um you're dreaming about, and you're kind of like Lauren said, you're kind of doing this life review of sorts, even though that's something that we do when we pass, but you're kind of doing it now pre-death. And it's almost like you're letting go of all these things that have trapped you or held you down to, like you said, be able to ascend and move to the next level and the next vibration up. So to
right.
me, it's really about regaining your own power. And I find it interesting because I know you've told me when you were cutting the cords in that one, or like the phrase off a sweater is the cords in the one
Right.
dream. It's just like this is a continuation of almost setting out these particular situations that you needed to cut those cords from. So that's what I picked up from it when you were talking there.
Thanks, girls. I'll take both.
I just feel like saying, patting yourself and saying, what a good job I've done.
Yeah, yeah. Because you wonder as you pass through life's different circumstances as you're walking this earth, whether you're doing it the right way and if you're traveling in the right directions. And so, yeah, that dream showing it going into light now makes me think, yeah, I've been traveling in the right direction all along, and so I finally arrived, I guess. That would be it, you know.
Well, in a place that also sounds like a wonderful place to be open and to have an empty space to grow into now without fear.
Yes,
You know,
yes,
what can evolve in my life now? I have this big open space, but I don't have fear around it. I have a sense of light. And what is that? Excitement, anticipation, hope. It just sounds like what a nice new stage of your life.
it is. Yeah, very much so. It's
It
beautiful,
is. And I
actually.
think it's interesting with these dreams, like the ones we've shared and the ones you've shared. And I know that they're on a personal, more ours are on a more personal level. But I feel like sometimes when we're having these dreams, they correlate out into some of the things that are happening in the world. And, that trying to find your safety in yourself, trying to find the power in yourself, trying to find the sweetness in your life. So I think, as much as we look at them on a personal level, I really think we can look at them on a level of how it is that we're feeling in this world right now.
Right?
Absolutely. And sometimes, I mean,
True.
there are clues to me that a dream is collective, like you going into a store like Target, which is, again, a large collective place. So there is something collective in that dream. And it may be looking for the sweetness of what's cooking right now in your world, in the larger world. But there's sometimes where the dream feels so collective, it's hard to find the personal in it. And so I always have to look for both, because I believe that every dream has all those layers of personal, what's going in my life right now. What is the dream picking up about the last 48 hours? What's the dream picking up about the next 48 hours? What's the dream picking up about what's happening with me in my unconscious, which my association to garage would be the unconscious.
Okay. Yeah.
So what is happening in my unconscious? How am I evolving in ways I may not see in my waking life, but it's certainly happening like a pregnancy. And then there's this collective level and spiritual level. So, yeah, I know we've talked about this before, and I keep going back to them, dreams that I've had for the last 20 years. And I know we had a whole podcast around this, collective dreams, well,
Right.
dreams around what's happening politically. And these are very helpful to me to understand the bigger archetypal meanings of what's going on right now. Like, as I said, what happens with the presidency we have right now is a lot of chaos. And every day is a new declaration that creates shock and chaos, and it's very hard to live with that kind of chaos. And it also looks crazy. But to see that there's a bigger theme here, I'll go back to a dream that I had in 2012. And the dream was that I was in the Empire State Building. And the next moment I look down and I see the ocean is underneath it, and I'm in the ocean. And then I see a tsunami coming at me, and I understand that I'm going to die and that the Empire State Building is going to be knocked over. And I say, so this is what it is to die. If I close my eyes, it'll all be peaceful. It's only the transition that's scary. And I woke up from the dream and I said, this is about the state of the empire. This is an empire that's in decline or collapsing. It's scary, but it's the transition that's scary. So I've been tracking images in our films, which are like a collective dream.
Yep.
In my dreams and others' dreams, I've been tracking my dreams and our collective images, like 9/11 is a tower collapse. Trump is a tower archetype. He is associated with the black tower with his gold name on it. The tower archetype is about collapsing structures. So if we just track dreams and we track images in our collective, we will see that we're in a big transition. Now, that's scary to say, the empire is collapsing. I have felt like Cassandra for the last 20 years saying we're in decline, and people like not wanting to hear it. But we can see that that's the place we're in right now. It's not Trump's fault. We wouldn't have a Trump if we were not in this place of decline and transformation. And what comes out of a collapse is something new that wants to be born. So what new wants to be born? And again, looking at the dreams, who die into the ocean is to die to the great mother. There's the great feminine that's rising. We can see there's a battle between an old patriarchy and the rise of the feminine. That's just what this last election was about. But it may take time to see it really come to fruition in our politics. But we can, that it's a whole different way of looking at what's happening, that this is the death grip of a toxic patriarchy that is in decline, and that there is a rise of the feminine. And again, I can share the dream I had in 2015, that it was not an image, it was a phrase that I woke up with. And I sat straight up and I just said this phrase: when you see the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse coming, turn your eyes inward and start a new civilization in your belly. Now,
That's deep.
But Jesus, that's not my language. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. I was not raised with religion. I'm a Jewish kid from West LA. This is not my language. So something was coming through. And what that said to me is, we're going to see some scary things, like rampant fires in LA. um, the horses of the apocalypse are all different kinds of plagues that come upon us. We're going to see some apocalyptic things. But what does that say? It says, turn inward and find the place where something new wants to be born, a new civilization, and it's being born in the body of the feminine.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of these fires and some of our political upheavals and things like that really is about coming back to the divine feminine. But like you said, it's kind of like the tower as well, as we need this breakdown because things have got shitty, for lack of a better word.
Out of hand.
And
Yeah.
right, so we really need these fires and these traumatic things to happen in order to bring that renewal back in. And for, like you said, people to start looking inwards because we've been so much about looking at material things around us and looking out for recognition and acceptance and whatever we need to fulfill our lives. We've forgotten how to look back inside and to connect back in with our own bodies and into Mother Earth and things like that. So when I think about some of these things happening, it's almost like a washing of things to bring back this peace that we do need here.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that doesn't minimize the pain and the grief. I have dear friends that have lost their community, and one has lost her house, and that's just one person out of so many. This is a devastating event, and for so many people. And then, as I said, everybody's been touched in LA, and it keeps rippling out. But we do need to know that there is something deep within us that is beyond this physical moment, beyond this physical, what we're attached to physically, that has sustainability to it.
Yeah.
We're coming to know that our physical world isn't sustainable, and we've lived in hundreds of years of a paradigm that the physical world's the only reality. Well, that's not a sustainable reality. So to find this deep spiritual inner place to embody spirit in a way that's very real, to find that we are guided by larger forces, is something that can help sustain us as we're in a paradigm shift. It's a consciousness shift.
Mm-hmm.
Find a different ground of our being. And as you said, to understand that the physical world that we've been so attached to, or money or status or any of those things, are not really what it means to truly be.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like, we are sending compassion and love and healing to these people that are going through these, horrendous fires and not to make light of them losing everything they have. But it's been interesting, the little clips I have seen about people, rummaging through the fire, which is heartbreaking, but then finding this little treasure of something that meant more to them than the house itself has been almost like just people are getting back to that love, and we're able to send these people healing through our thoughts and through our prayers and through our um, the collectiveness of everybody to send that as well. Rather, we agree with the way they are, or what their religion is, or, what their thoughts are, or anything else. We're still sending them collectively. Oh my gosh, this is a horrible thing that happened to you. We need to send you these beautiful thoughts to help heal your heart.
Yeah.
That story is such a beautiful description. That's like a dream in itself, which is to have this sense of just overwhelming destruction and then to find something that is more precious.
Yes, absolutely. Well, everybody, we're going to wrap up here in a few minutes. So if you have anything that you want to say, now is your chance.
So they're just listening at this point, are they?
At this point, they're just listening. Yeah.
But that's okay. That's okay too. I mean, hope they get something that we've been talking about that helps them as well, right? So that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
people might be a little hesitant to speak up and share their own dreams. I know I fake it, but I'm an introvert, so coming out on podcasts was a really big step for me these last couple of years. And I think people get shy around speaking um, publicly sometimes. But I hope that your listeners are picking up at least the idea that they can look into their dreams, pull cards, and look for where that nugget is. You know, what is it that is so precious? And particularly if you're having nightmares or anxiety dreams. Another thing about anxiety dreams, nightmares, and yeah, so they have a tendency to repeat when we have trauma. Um, one of the features of that are repetitive nightmares. But if we look carefully at the nightmare, we'll discover that there's a very small shift. It was like your dream that you're talking about from 20 years ago. There will be a shift from one to the next, and we will see that our dreams are doing the work of healing with us. So we can notice those shifts if we really pay attention to the details of the dream.
True.
So look for the healing medicine, look for the small shifts in your dreams.
Thank you.
And you'll realize that they do the deep work of healing for us from trauma, that our dreams are always coming in the service of our health and our wholeness. And your dream was perfect around all those numbers in terms of showing how the dream is giving images and numbers around healing and wholeness. But the same thing I have found with my work with therapy is that these are random cards that we're selecting. And yet the cards seem to have a cohesive narrative that comes in the service of our healing and our wholeness. And that's amazing to realize that there's something beyond our own bodies or beyond our psyches that is operating here.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a mastermind that's choosing those cards. How is it that they are so completely perfect to the situation?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Well, we appreciate you coming on with us and talking to everybody about this because I just, both Mom and I think it's so important for everybody to, understand how some of these things that just, are something so natural for us to have dreams are so important to, be able to get into our own psyches to see things and how we're feeling. And, I think the more that we start practicing with these things, the more in tune we're going to be, and we will find the answers through them through this practice. And I know that's a lot of what you're teaching as well as, being able to tune into these and use the Tarotpy and things like that.
Yeah.
You can tune in to find out, what your path is, what is aggravating you, what's giving you anxiety, where to, what you need to shift. So, we both think it's just so important that there's people out there like you that can share this with us. And we just really appreciate you spending time with us. And with everybody that was on the live, we also thank you for tuning in. So,
may I quickly share some events that people can go to do
yes,
some
please.
dream work or therapy? So March 1st, there is a all-day conference down in Whittier. It's being put on by the IASD. You can find it at asdreams.org or on Eventbrite. It's an all-day dream conference to help support people. And I will be doing therapy there. There's like 9 different kinds of dreamers, dream experts who work dreams in all kinds of ways, including art and writing.
Nice.
On February 16th, I'm going to do a free 3-hour workshop for dreams and therapy to help people. So they can check that out on my website, dreamsandtherapy.com. On March 2nd, I'm going to be with another dream expert who's an artist at the Mystic Journey bookstore in Santa Monica. And these are all opportunities to come and work your dreams, work therapy, get lots of support from different healers.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's wonderful.
Yes, very beautiful. So
Yeah.
again, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Lauren, for being with us. We really do
Yes, thank you.
appreciate it. And, we'll be doing more lives so people can, hopefully get more comfortable with it and put in their different things that they want to see. But either way, the information's getting out there. So thank you so much.
You betcha.
Always a pleasure.
Okay. Oops, I don't know.